Hello everyone and welcome back to Court Logs. In today's video, we're covering one of the darkest and most infamous cases in true crime history, the life, crimes, and trial of Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal. This story isn't just about the 17 murders Dahmer committed between 1978 and 1991, but also about how the justice system handled his trial, how the media shaped public perception, and how the families of victims endured the process. This is a long and detailed case breakdown, so buckle up as we explore the horrifying details of each murder, the investigation, the courtroom battles, and the aftermath of a trial that shocked the world. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His childhood was seemingly ordinary, but later accounts revealed that he had a fascination with dead animals, dissection, and isolation. By the time he was a teenager, Dahmer was already showing disturbing signs of obsession with control, dominance, and death. His parents' troubled marriage and eventual divorce added to his sense of abandonment. At 18 years old, he committed his first murder. His first victim was Stephen Hicks, an 18-year-old hitchhiker whom Dahmer lured back to his parents' home in Bath, Ohio, in June 1978. After drinking together, Hicks tried to leave, but Dahmer struck him with a dumbbell and strangled him. He then dismembered the body and scattered the remains in the woods behind the house. This first murder set the stage for a pattern that would last over a decade: Dahmer's desperate desire to keep victims from leaving, his use of alcohol and manipulation, and his eventual obsession with control over life and death. Dahmer didn't kill again for almost 9 years, but in 1987 the murders resumed. His second victim was Stephen Twomey, whom he met at a bar in Milwaukee. Dahmer claimed he had no memory of killing Twomey, but woke up to find him dead. He transported the body to his grandmother's basement and dismembered him. This murder marked the escalation of his crimes. In 1988, Dahmer lured James Dockstader, a 14-year-old boy, to his grandmother's house with the promise of money for posing for photos. After strangling him, Dahmer kept his remains in the basement before disposing of them. Later that same year, Dahmer killed Richard Guerrero, a 22-year-old man he met outside a bar. Again, Dahmer drugged, strangled, and dismembered him. By this time, Dahmer's grandmother began complaining of strange smells and odd behavior. Despite her suspicions, Dahmer continued killing. In 1989, he lured Anthony Sears, a 24-year-old aspiring model, to his grandmother's house. Sears became Dahmer's fifth victim, and notably, Dahmer preserved Sears's skull and genitalia as trophies. This marked a turning point, not only killing, but keeping physical remains as mementos. In 1990, Dahmer moved into his own apartment at the infamous Oxford Apartments in Milwaukee. Freed from the watchful eyes of his grandmother, his murders escalated rapidly. His sixth victim was Raymond Smith, whom he lured with the promise of money for sex. After killing him, Dahmer photographed the process of dismemberment and kept his skull. Soon after, he murdered Edward Smith, a 27-year-old man. Unlike previous victims, Dahmer attempted to preserve Smith's skeleton by placing it in the freezer and later trying to dry it out. The experiment failed, and Dahmer expressed regret at losing such a trophy. Next was Ernest Miller, a 22-year-old who became victim number 8. Dahmer offered him money to come to his apartment. After drugging and strangling him, Dahmer removed parts of Miller's body, consuming some flesh and preserving bones. This is where the cannibalism aspect became undeniable. Later in 1990, Dahmer killed David Thomas, 23. Unlike others, Dahmer didn't find Thomas physically attractive after bringing him home. But fearing Thomas would leave and possibly report him, Dahmer killed him anyway. In 1991, Dahmer's killing spree intensified. His 10th victim was Curtis Strader, a 17-year-old whom he lured from a bus stop. Dahmer drugged and strangled him, photographing the process. Shortly after, he killed Errol Lindsay, 19. With Lindsay, Dahmer attempted a gruesome experiment, drilling a hole in his skull and pouring hydrochloric acid inside, hoping to create a zombie-like state to keep Lindsay alive but submissive. The experiment failed, and Lindsay died. That same year, Dahmer murdered Tony Hughes, a 31-year-old deaf man. Hughes was vulnerable due to his disability, but Dahmer showed no hesitation. Just days later, he killed Conorak Synthesomphone, a 14-year-old boy. This case is especially infamous. Conorak actually escaped Dahmer's apartment, naked and disoriented, and was found by police. Dahmer convinced officers that Conorak was his 19-year-old lover who had simply had too much to drink. The police returned Conorak to Dahmer, who then killed him shortly after. This failure by law enforcement remains one of the most shocking aspects of the case. Dahmer continued with Matt Turner, 20, Jeremiah Weinberger, 23, Oliver Lacey, 24, and Joseph Breithoft, 25. Each victim was lured with money, drugged, strangled, and dismembered. Dahmer preserved body parts, including skulls, hearts, and genitalia, keeping them in his refrigerator, freezer, and filing cabinet. By July 1991, neighbors in the Oxford apartments complained constantly of foul smells and strange noises. Finally, on July 22, 1991, Dahmer invited Tracy Edwards to his apartment. Edwards managed to escape after a struggle, flagging down 2 Milwaukee police officers. When they entered Dahmer's apartment, they discovered the horrors inside: photographs of dismembered bodies, human remains in the fridge, a head in the freezer, and barrels filled with acid-containing body parts. The arrest of Jeffrey Dahmer immediately became a global news story. The trial began in January 1992 and drew enormous media attention. Families of victims filled the courtroom, alongside reporters and cameras. Dahmer faced 15 counts of murder in Wisconsin. The evidence was overwhelming: photographs, forensic analysis, and Dahmer's own confessions. The central legal battle was whether Dahmer was legally insane at the time of his crimes. The defense argued that his cannibalism and necrophilia were evidence of severe mental illness. The prosecution countered that Dahmer knew his actions were wrong, pointing to his attempts to hide bodies, lie to police, and meticulously clean up crime scenes. The trial was emotionally charged. Families gave heart-wrenching victim impact statements. One of the most memorable moments came when the sister of victim Errol Lindsay shouted at Dahmer in court, her rage capturing the grief of so many families. The jury deliberated for only 5 hours before rejecting the insanity defense. On February 15, 1992, Dahmer was convicted on all 15 counts and sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences, totaling nearly 1,000 years in prison. The media hype was immense. Newspapers, television, and talk shows dissected every detail. The case raised questions about how police missed earlier warning signs, particularly the failure with Conorak Synthesomphone. It also sparked debates about how mental illness is handled in the justice system. In prison, Dahmer initially expressed remorse, even agreeing to interviews where he admitted his crimes in disturbing detail. But he remained a target. On November 28, 1994, while serving his sentence at Columbia Correctional Institution, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver. The trial of Jeffrey Dahmer remains one of the most infamous in American history. It combined gruesome crimes, legal drama, and media spectacle. It forced society to confront uncomfortable questions: how could someone commit such acts for so long without detection? Could the justice system have acted sooner? And how should the media balance public interest with sensitivity for victims' families? For court logs, this case represents one of the most detailed and shocking examples of a serial killer trial ever recorded. From the chilling murders to the courtroom battles and ultimate verdict, the story of Jeffrey Dahmer is one that continues to haunt and fascinate decades later. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into true crime and courtroom history.